Hi friends, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. So I've been asked to correlate some horror books that I would recommend to romance readers, and this is that video. So you're welcome if you're watching this. Let me know in the comments if you want to see any other horror recommendations for other genres. I will try my best to round up some of my thoughts on that and give you the best recommendations. I don't read romance. I hate romance books. I just don't think it's for me. But I do like books that have romance as like an element. I've got a list of books that I think a romance reader who wants to dabble in horror might enjoy. So I'm just going to start off with a book that everybody already knows that I adore and always recommend, and that's My Throat, an Open Grave by Tori Bovalino. This book, it doesn't have the main plot line to be about romance, but we have romantic undertones. This is a dark Gothic fairy tale. We're following Leah, who's from a small town, a very religious and God-fearing town. They believe that the forest is home to the Lord of the Wood. And Leah doesn't believe in this legend until it happens to her little brother. And the town think it's her fault, so they kick her out, tell her to go live in the forest, try and find her brother. And that's where our main story kicks off. And it is very folk heavy. We're in the woods majority of the time. We're following Leah on this journey. The descriptions are incredible. And there's a little undertone of romance picking up in this book. It's not intense. It's kind of there. The horror is kind of minimal. So I think this would be a really good start if you're kind of just dabbling into horror. It's a great exploration, and the romantic undertone is actually alright, you know? So My Throat, an Open Grave is my first recommendation. Next, we're moving into something a little different, and that's Near the Bone by Christina Henry. Near the Bone is a polar thriller horror. It's kind of like a dual creepy story. So we're following Maddie and her husband William. They live in an isolated home on the top of the mountain, and William isn't the nicest man. So the romance in here is a dark sort of romance. We're following the darker side of relationships and how they can spiral and be not so nice. And so there's some, in terms of the actual story, it's following a group of strangers who start a hike on this mountain, and Maddie knows that William isn't going to be pleased about this. And so when William gets angry, she feels the repercussions of that. And there's also a monster that awakens on the mountain. So this is a creature feature horror story that has a darker romantic undertone. So if you're still dabbling in horror, I think this is a good start because it's not very gross. The horror in here is mainly the human horror, and sometimes that's the scariest kind of horror. So Near the Bone is another recommendation. It's a recommendation I already mentioned to you guys that have asked for this, but that's Bloom by Delilah S. Dawson. Bloom is a sapphic story. It's following a woman who gets obsessed with another woman who runs a stall. I can't really remember their names. Oh, Ro, who meets Ash. Ro, her personality becomes Ash. She's so obsessed with this woman who is selling her goods at a farmer market, and it becomes all-encompassing. And so this is showing the side of how you can become so obsessed with somebody and it's not healthy. But when they get together, it's just not what Ro was expecting. Ash has a lot of secrets, and once Ro finds them, shit hits the fan. It's dark, it's gross, it's murderous. The writing, I will say, it's a little bit difficult to get into. There's a lot of words you may need a dictionary to understand, but I think the overall premise of the story is so incredible. It's got your cottagecore feel, a good starting point if you're looking for horror that has a little bit something something, you know? Also, the cover is stunning. Next up, we have a book that I adored, House of Hunger by Alexis Henderson. This is your sapphic vampire story. We're following Marion, who doesn't like her life right now. So she finds an ad in the paper for a blood maid, and she decides to become a blood maid to the countess. Obviously, this is vampire based, so she becomes the servant to the countess, who is a vampire. She drinks their blood. She has a ton of blood maids, and Marion and Elizabeth get into a seductive relationship. The writing of the relationship is very sensual and flowery. It's very gory. There's a lot of descriptions. So I think this is like your level 2 as a beginner. So if you've read the other recommendations and you're kind of like, yeah, I want to step up my horror, I think a good starting point for your level 2 into horror with a little bit of romance, House of Hunger would be your next port of call. Next up, we have Mexican Gothic by Silvia Morena Garcia. This is a TikTok book. You've probably seen this one already, but it's very gothic. This one is very centered around the Gothic haunted house and a descent into madness. Our main character has to go to a house to look after her cousin because her cousin isn't well, and there's something hidden in the walls of this house, and it's just creepy. It's very gothic and a good one to kind of step away from the gore, the horror, and the romance. It's a little bit there, but it's not that noticeable. Mexican Gothic. So we're still in our Gothic vibe with Lake's Edge by Lyndall Clipstone. Lake's Edge is a story that is kind of like a fairy tale. It's a dark, twisted fairy tale. So Letta finds this guy called Rowan who drowned his brother in the lake, and Letta falls in love with Rowan, but Rowan is connected to a lord called the Lord Under, and basically Rowan and Letta go on this discovery. They are trying to uncover why he is connected and the mysteries behind it. So I think it has like a romantic gothic vibe. It's a duology. So there is a second book called Forest Fall. If you liked Lake's Edge, then you might want to pick up Forest Fall as well. My next recommendation may be a little out there for romance, but that's Such Sharp Teeth by Rachel Harrison. So there's no romance as such in here. It's a werewolf book. So we're following Rory. Her twin sister's pregnant. Rory returns to her small town to look after her sister because they're estranged from the baby dad, basically. There's a little bit of a romance when Rory goes back to a bar and hits up like an old flame to kind of rekindles that love, and then after that she's just not the same. So there's a little bit, but it's not the main plot of the story. As a werewolf story, she gets bitten and Rory starts the descent into her transformation. I love this book because of the motifs towards the female body. She's transforming, and us women always transform. We go through puberty, our bodies change, and it's a real callback to being a woman. And I thought that was really, really intense and a good way to kind of showcase the horrors of being a woman, but using actual horror tropes. And that's what Rachel Harrison does so well. A lot of her books are centered around the female experience. And this one kind of relates to your puberty, your transformation, changing and getting to grips with your new life. So that's kind of the story. There's traumatic things that happen to Rory in her past, and she's trying to deal with those. Check trigger warnings if you are sort of sensitive to trauma-based book. Such Sharp Teeth would be a step up into the more horrific stories. Then we have Hungerstone by Kat Dunn. This is a more recent release. It is a retelling of Carmilla. So Carmilla is the original vampire story, and this one is following our main character Loretta. Lenore. I knew that was wrong. Okay, so our main character is Lenore, and she's obviously married. This is set in like the 1700s. But Lenore's not happy in her relationship, in her marriage, and they stumble upon this woman who seems a bit ill. They take her in, and their life changes forever. There's less traditional romance in here and more about the hunger of desire, your dark sort of things that you keep down that you don't want to surface. And Carmilla brings those out in the women, and they just become so hungry. So Hungerstone is really about what you desire and following that vampire trope, but mainly kind of delving deeper into what women desire most in life. So yeah, very sapphic, very interesting. Got more vampire lore in here. Finally, we have our last book, which is Guillotine by Delilah S. Dawson. This is your very intense book recommendation. This is a slasher fest. We're following a woman who goes to an island. She pretends to be in love with this guy simply because his mum is a fashion icon. She wants to get into publishing. She's going to use anybody she can, and especially this man. So she goes to the family reunion on an island, and shit hits the fan. This is like Scream meets Ready or Not. It's all out gore. It's so intense. It's dark, but it's a pretty in pink. Yeah, Guillotine is the best revenge story you may read. And I'm saying this is the most intense recommendation because the romance is very minimal. The gore is 110%. So yeah, if you've kind of read the other books and you're wanting something darker, Guillotine might be the option. So a very violent book to end this video on. Let me know in the comments as well if you have any other recommendations for romance readers to get into horror. These are the ones that I thought of that I have read. So yeah, thank you so much for watching this. I hope you enjoyed this video, and of course, again, let me know what genre I should cover next. And I guess until next time, keep your pages turning and embrace the darkness. Bye!